Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Charlotte, Jailton Almeida versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and it's going down this Saturday night live at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I said this Saturday night. I actually meant this Saturday morning, this Saturday afternoon. It's an early card, and you got Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's a top 10 heavyweight, and he's taking on Jailton Almeida, who, man, they were like, all right, Jailton, you passed all the early tests we gave you. And now it's time to see how you stack up against the top 10, my man. I mean, there's no more, there's no more Parker Porters. There's no more Anton the Pleasure Man Karl. There's no more Shamil Abdurakimovs. Now it's like, hey, man, if you're the real deal, you're going to do exactly what you did to those guys here against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And let's take a look at the official UFC rankings to see exactly what kind of a jump up in competition we're taking here. When we're talking about Jailton Machado Almeida. And for those that don't know, so I'm pretty damn sure that nickname means, bad intentions in Portuguese, or just like a mean guy. My professor told me around the, last time he fought, I don't remember, but it was something like bad intentions or something like that. Okay. So the last dude that Jailton fought was Shamil. And I'm guessing Shamil was probably ranked, 15 at the time, or maybe he had just gotten omitted from the rankings. Right. So now we're like, hey, you passed all those tests with flying colors. So now we're going to put you in there with number 9 in the world. And number 9 in the world used to be number 5 in the world. But as y'all know, man, this heavyweight division, I mean, it's always changing, man. You got the young up and comers like Tom Aspinall. You got the White and Ngannou, Sergey Pavlovich, who's been on an absolute tear. So, yeah, man, I love what I've been seeing in the heavyweight division. So let's go ahead and break down this main event. So, main event of the evening in the heavyweight division, we got Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He's 13-4, taking on Jailton Almeida, who's 18-2. And currently, they got it Jailton minus 500. The comeback on Jairzinho Rozenstruik is plus 375. So, according to these odds, it's a foregone conclusion that Jailton is just going to come out here, take this guy down, and whether it's a submission, whether it's a ground and pound stoppage, he's going to have his way with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So that's what these odds imply. I mean, let's just put it this way. This is scheduled for 5 rounds. Under 4.5 rounds is minus 1,000. When's the last time y'all saw an under 4.5 for minus 1,000, right? Now let's take it down a notch. Under 3.5 rounds, minus 770. Under 2.5 rounds, minus 450. Under 1.5 rounds, minus 225. So basically what I'm trying to tell y'all is they don't expect Rozenstruik to even last half a round against Almeida. But here's the thing about Rozenstruik. So we know exactly what he brings to the table standing. I mean, former kickboxer, dude had an extensive kickboxing background, and he's nasty on the feet, man. I mean, it might be a little bit on the lower volume side, but like all his UFC wins have been via knockout, and he's knocked out some real guys too, some legends, some former champions, some up and comers. He's done the whole bit. The only guys that have been able to beat him are, legit Francis Ngannou. A lot of people consider him to be the uncrowned champ, and that's no disrespect to Johnny Bones at all. To Cyril Gane, the former interim champ, and to Curtis Blades, a perennial top 5 guy, and Volkov too. How could I forget about that? So all top 5 guys have been able to come out here and beat Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but they all beat him differently than how Jailton is. The closest one you'd bring up is Curtis Blades, because Curtis was able to accrue some top control. I believe Curtis got 1 takedown every single round. And, as soon as he wanted to get that, he was able to hold him down. So here's the thing with Jairzinho's ground game. So what I've noticed for a long time is, Jairzinho, his takedown defense isn't the best, but his ground defense isn't that bad. Like, he'll usually like get taken down, and he kind of has that like Derek Lewis thing going on where like he'll give up side control, he'll kind of chill a little bit, and then when it's time to explode back up to his feet, he's pretty damn good at doing that. And he doesn't leave too many openings on the mat. Now, granted, he hasn't fought a black belt of the caliber of Jailton Almeida yet, of Machadinho. So this might be the time where, you know, where Jairzinho, he's historically very good at surviving on the mat. Maybe not sweeping, maybe not attempting submissions, but at least like you're not going to get off too much damage on him. He's able to minimize the damage and he's able to get back up to his feet, historically speaking. Here's where that might be a little bit different because Jailton Almeida, I mean, not only does he have that ridiculous jiu-jitsu background, but he can also wrestle for MMA really damn well. And you go back to his Contender Series fight where he was in there with a serious Russian, a guy who, I mean, don't be surprised if that Nasruddinov gets signed to the UFC, in the next year or two, right? And Jailton was out there taking that Russian down 3 times. Next fight, makes his UFC debut against Danilo Marquez, who, listen, Danilo Marquez, he might not be the best, but he's a pretty well-respected black belt. And Jailton, the strike count was 30-0. The takedown count was 2-0. So Jailton, check this out. In his first 2 UFC fights, because remember when Khamzat Chimaev had that cool stat about how, like, he had only absorbed like 1 strike in his first like 4 UFC fights or whatever, or something like that, until he fought Gilbert Burns. So Jailton is on some similar stuff. His UFC debut against Danilo lands 0 strikes. His sophomore appearance against Parker Porter lands 0 strikes. His next fight against Anton the Pleasure Man lands 1 strike. Next fight against Shamil lands 1 strike. So Jairzinho needs to land more than 1 strike to do better than any of the previous opponents Jailton's had inside the octagon. But really what it's going to come down to is, obviously there's a chance that Jailton feels like, well, this is my first main event. Now I want to put on a show for the fans. And if Jailton wants to come out here and he wants to bang, he wants to test his stand-up in this fight specifically, probably a bad idea. I mean, unless you have him so worried about the takedown, you're feinting those takedown attempts to the point where now Jairzinho starting to drop his hands. Then you can surprise him with some strike standing. I just would not recommend striking with a guy like Jairzinho, especially when your path to victory is so decisive, like it should be here for Jailton on the mat. So I guess what needs to happen here, or what we need to figure out, is how long is Jairzinho going to survive on the mat with Jailton? Because, like I said, Jairzinho, like the people that have finished him in the octagon, finished him standing, right? And the times he's been taken down inside the octagon, whether it was against Curtis Blades or some of these other guys, he's been able to survive on the mat and minimize damage and even be able to get back up. So you got to give Jairzinho credit for that. And this is a huge step up in competition compared to the guys that Jailton's been fighting up until this point. But that being said, Jailton's skill set is on such a level to where he should be able to come in here against a top 10 guy right now and honestly employ the same game plan he's been employing on all these other guys and have success doing so. So for that reason, I mean, it's not a surprise. I got to go with the -500 favorite, Jailton Almeida, to get it done. Is it going to be a ground and pound stoppage? Is it going to be a submission? Or, I mean, how interesting would it be if, like I said, Jairzinho can kind of survive on the mat, not take too much damage first couple rounds, then maybe the takedown attempts of Jailton start to slow down, and then maybe 3rd, 4th, and 5th, Jairzinho can keep it standing, and maybe he can get the best of him there. I mean, that's a long shot, but just saying, like, when you're thinking about, like, what would be his game plan coming into this, I mean, I doubt his game plan is, I'm going to come out here and grapple with Jailton Almeida and get the best of that. He probably knows he's got to survive some really tough spots. So let's see if he does. I'm not counting on it, but you never know. But that being said, Jailton Almeida via something on the mat is the pick here. No surprise. Co-main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division. We got Anthony Smith. He's 36-17, taking on Johnny Walker, who is 20-7. Currently, they got it Anthony Smith -115 and Johnny Walker's -105. So it's a pick 'em with a slight lean on the vet, Anthony Smith. When Johnny Walker first came into the UFC, man, I was super high on him. I know some of y'all remember, like, I even thought that Johnny Walker could be a guy to give John Jones a serious fight. Reason being, I talk about this all the time, these guys' fights. these guys fight is because John Jones had such physical advantages over everyone at 205 for the longest time that like he'd get in there, he'd be 10 years younger than these guys. He'd be 5 inches taller. He'd have a 10-inch reach advantage. So it'd be like, man, when's there finally going to be some athletic specimen that could match John Jones on athleticism that could actually give him a real fight and is not just like outmatched from the jump physically, right? Athletically. So when Johnny Walker came to the UFC, 6'6", 82-inch reach, he's a big boy. He's, remember those flying knees, those spins, like the shit he was doing his first couple UFC fights. I was like, God damn, like who's this guy, right? And he got exposed a little bit, ran into some roadblocks along the way, a few of them to be frank. But it's good to see him back in the win column. It's good to see him, rattle off 2 back-to-back first-round finishes, showed some different elements of his game. And, I say it's unfortunate where he's training, at SBG under John Kavanagh, the New York Times bestselling author. But listen, man, if that's the right coach for Johnny, who am I to tell him any differently? Apparently, when he was with his Brazilian coach, his dude was, was bringing girls up to his hotel room on fight week and was just not focused, but now he's locked in. So who am I to say, he's with the wrong people? Maybe for him, it's the right choice, right? Because I've always thought that, I thought that Johnny Walker was the guy right off the bat, but he had all those setbacks. So then I kind of adjusted my thinking to, okay, well, when Johnny Walker finally puts it together, I mean, he's a fucking problem. Here's the thing with Anthony Smith. He's a super vet. I mean, this guy's been around the game such a long time. I mean, we're talking about made his pro debut in 2007, and who knows how many street fights and amateur fights the guy had before that, right? And Anthony Smith is a guy that, I mean, he's got 18 wins by knockout. He's got 15 wins by submission. So this guy's a finishing machine. And he was a guy that used to fight at middleweight. I think even before that, like long ass time ago, he might have even fought at welterweight. But now, last few fights, fighting at 205, has been filling out his frame. Got a bunch of wins over legends at 205. So it's good to see, a longtime vet like that doing his thing. My issue with Anthony Smith is that his fighting style is kind of predicated on comebacks, which I love a good comeback. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Chito Vera, and there's a lot of guys I enjoy watching that are known for their comebacks. It's just that, when you talk about actually coming out here and dominating someone for 3 rounds, that's just not really something I see Anthony Smith doing. If Anthony Smith is to win this fight, I think it's going to be, him catching Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker has been chinned multiple times, but I think that Johnny Walker is going to be winning this fight until he gets his arm raised or until he gets caught. So my pick is Johnny Walker. Obviously you can't have too much confidence because the issues with his chin. He's got that tall man defense, and he does not react the best to getting hit. But he's a super tough guy. Like, he's one of those guys that when he gets dropped, he tries his best to get back up. I know he looks kind of goofy at times, but he's no like pushover in terms of like the mental and the heart side of things. Johnny Walker's a super tough guy. It's just more so, his durability ain't quite the best, and I'm sure he cuts a shit ton of weight to get down to 205. So for Anthony to win this fight, I mean, I think it's got to be an opportunistic finish, some kind of comeback, or just catch him along the way. I do not think Anthony Smith is going to just be picking him apart with a jab and calf kicks and mixing a takedown and, just like dominating bell to bell. I don't see that being the case. I see it. Johnny Walker, like I said, Johnny Walker is going to be winning this fight until he either gets his arm raised or until he gets caught somewhere along the way. I'm going to go with Johnny Walker to defeat Anthony Smith. Featured bout in the welterweight division, we got Ian Machado Garry. He's 11-0, taking on Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, who's 17-3. Currently, they got it. Ian Garry minus 300. The comeback on D-Rod is plus 265. I got a bone to pick, bro, because listen to this. So Ian Garry, a guy that I love betting on, and I've bet on in a good majority of his fights, even at like stupid prices, and he's come through every single time. And he's a talent that I'm high on. I'll explain why in a sec. But when this fight first got announced, I mean, I heard people getting up on their high horse talking about how, oh my God, it's red panty night. D-Rod's going to be the one to finally expose Ian Garry, and D-Rod's going to do all these things. So, it was my sheer ignorance to wait on betting Ian Garry because I thought that some people on MMA Twitter actually had pull in these lines. I thought that people were going to actually come out here and steam Ian Garry. So, Ian Garry's like minus 215 to minus 225. I'm like, all right, the D-Rod money's about to come in. I wake up the next day, it's Ian Garry minus 250. I'm like, all right, now the D-Rod money is going to come in. I wake up the next day, he's minus 275. I say the same shit. I wake up the next day, he's minus 300. It's like, fuck. So like, are y'all like gonna bet D-Rod or not? Like, because like y'all should go back on Twitter right now. Go find that fight announcement of this fight when my boy Big Marcel tweeted it out, and look how confident everyone was on D-Rod, talking about how they're gonna take out loans, talking about how, oh, this is a once in a lifetime betting opportunity, how D-Rod's gonna be the one to expose Garry. Well, the line's gone the opposite way. So people weren't putting their money where their mouth is, or their units are so small that they have zero impact on the line. It's just unfortunate. It's a mistake on my part that I even read any of that bullshit, because I should have just jumped on Ian Garry when he was minus 215, when he was minus 225. But unfortunately, I missed the line, and I don't bet with emotions. So even though he might still come out here and cover this minus 300, it wasn't the price I was looking for. I think it's more accurate now versus before I thought there might have been some value. So it kind of sucks. But what I like about Ian Garry, man, I like everything about Ian Garry, to be honest with you. I love the kid's confidence. He's super wise beyond his years. He was born in fucking 1997. He's just a kid. We've seen this guy come out here and land over 100 significant strikes in 3-round fights more than once. We've seen him land knockdowns in 3 of his 4 UFC fights. And if you go back to his regional fights, I mean, the guy went 5 rounds. The guy can grapple. The guy can do it all. His cardio is on point. I mean, I like everything about Ian Garry. I think that he's a serious prospect, and I think he will be in the top 15 one day. The last fight, he did get dropped. But I just want to say this, man. Like, in that fight where he got dropped against Song Keenan, I mean, firstly, he beat the living shit out of Keenan Song, man. But it was one of those things where, like, you drop your hands against the heavy hitter. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, you get touched. And that's just how it goes, man. But Keenan Song's a guy that has more knockouts in the UFC than Daniel Rodriguez, and Keenan Song's a guy that has more knockouts overall than Daniel Rodriguez. So I'm not discrediting D-Rod at all. I'm just saying that, just because Ian was such a big favorite last time and he got dropped, like, don't let that fool you from the fact that Keenan Song, like, even in that fight, I was saying there's one way Keenan Song can win this fight, and that's by knockout, because Keenan Song hits hard. He doesn't do anything else, but he hits fucking hard. So let's not act like Ian Garry got dropped by some pillow fist guy. Ian Garry got dropped by a heavy hitter, and he recovered great, and then he destroyed the guy the next 2 rounds. So yeah, and then when you talk about his 4 UFC fights, first one gets that first round knockout. The next one, Darian Weeks was avoiding the fight the whole time, pushing him up against the fence, and Ian still doubled him up on strikes. The Gabe Green fight, I think I bet him like minus 155. I mean, landed over 100 significant strikes, got a knockdown against a super tough guy in Gabe Green, covered that price tag. And then the Song Keenan fight, he was like minus 800. Unfortunately, he got dropped. So you could say he didn't cover it because he lost a round, but like when you look at the box score, I mean, he outstruck him just on significant strikes, 127 to 55. Oh, it's funny. And on total strikes as well, because every single strike that Ian landed was a significant strike. As far as D-Rod's concerned, I mean, look, the guy's got good output. He's got decent hands. That's what he's known for. He's a vet. I like him. He comes to fight. He's an exciting guy. I just think he's going to be a little bit on the slower side. I think that, D-Rod does best when he's got a big reach advantage over these guys, when he's got the height advantage, and he's got neither in this spot. So while, yeah, obviously D-Rod's got good hands, and you can't discount the fact, look, Ian got dropped a couple months ago. So would I be shocked if it happened again here? No, but I'm going to predict that doesn't happen here. I'm going to predict that Ian Garry kind of keeps D-Rod on the outside. They have a competitive fight, but a competitive fight where Ian Garry is clearly ahead. And we talk about Ian Garry getting dropped against Keenan Song, but how come no one ever mentions what Dwight Grant did to D-Rod in their fight? Dwight Grant floored D-Rod, and Dwight Grant also a hard hitter, just like Keenan Song. So both guys have been dropped early in fights, man. And here, don't be surprised that Ian Garry is the first man in the UFC to knock out D-Rod. I can see it happening. I can also see a 3-round fight. But bottom line, I'm going Ian Garry, and I hope that all these people that were acting like it's red panty night, that D-Rod's a big dog, put their money where their mouth is and maybe actually move the line, because I still have hope that I can get a good price on Ian Garry, but I'm not going to force a bet at a shitty line. That's just the bottom line. But give me a good line on Ian Garry and I'm in. So let's see what happens between now and Friday or Saturday, right? But my pick is Ian Garry. Now, next up in the light heavyweight division, we got Carlos Ulberg. He's 7-1, taking on Ihor Potieria, who's 19-3. Currently, they got it. Carlos Ulberg minus 450. The comeback on Ihor plus 325, plus 370 in some books. There's another one where I missed the line. I kind of liked. Ulberg in this spot, right? Ulberg has been coming through for me, man. I mean, like, I picked Kennedy against him because I thought that was too big of a step up, and then I bet Carlos in a buy low spot against Fabio Charant, and Fabio Charant is literally like one of the worst fighters in the history of the sport. Like, go look at the strike counts in the Fabio Charant fight. Fabio Charant lands 4 strikes in round 1, lands 7 strikes in round 2, lands 2 strikes in round 3. So when you have a guy that's not even willing to throw a punch, you just do whatever you want. You just have to land 2 punches to his 0 and you go out there and win. And that's exactly what Carlos Ulberg did. So took no unnecessary risks, even mixed in some takedowns to show off some new aspects of his game, handled him easily, like scot-free, didn't even get touched in that fight. So that was nice. And it was like minus 200. Next fight against Tafan. I mean, I know Tafan gave Azamat Mirzakhanov his hardest fight inside the octagon, and Ulberg just treated him like he was nothing. And then the next fight against Nikolai Negumariana, who's known for being this tough, durable guy who just gets in everybody's face and breaks guys. I mean, you should have seen the combo that Carlos Ulberg landed. So he hits him with a jab, he steps back, and as Nikolai's trying to close that distance, just fucking cracks him with a nasty check left hook. It was textbook. It was beautiful. So I think the ceiling's pretty high for this kid Ulberg. Here with Ihor, the jury's still out on him because he had an immensely padded record coming to the UFC. And when I say padded, let me explain to you what I mean by padded. When I say padded, Ihor Potieria was 13-2 fighting a guy that was 0-0. He was 14-2 fighting a guy that was 0-3. He was 16-2 fighting a guy that was 5-2. So you understand he was 8-2 fighting a guy that's 0-0, 7-2 fighting a guy that's 1-2. So he's got a super padded record. But listen, he came into the Contender Series as a big underdog and he performed, got that first round stoppage. Then he broke against his first real step up in competition against Nikolai. And then I did one of my worst bets of the year. I bet on the legend Mauricio Shogun in his retirement fight. UFC were literally like, Shogun, we dug to the bottom of the barrel to try to get you a win in your retirement fight in Brazil. Here's this 0-1 guy who's never been in there with anybody. Like, here's your chance. Shogun actually landed some strikes early, but when it was time for Shogun to receive the strikes, just couldn't eat them like he used to. And, the kid got the biggest win of his career, but now it's back to reality. The only thing is the price sucks, man. I mean, minus 450, and they're big boys. They're going to be banging. So there's a chance that Ulberg can get caught, but more than likely, I think Ulberg is a lot sharper, a lot cleaner, a lot more precise than Ihor. So for that reason, I'm going to pick him. Dude, you know what's funny? So how I was talking about how, like, with the Ian Garry fight, he's minus 300 now, and I was pissed I missed out on that minus 225. Some of the shit I've been seeing on MMA Twitter, bro? So y'all saw how, like, Ulberg is like minus 450, right? But, like, I think back on, like, Sunday, he was like minus 280. So Sunday he's minus 280, and then I know one of my good friends is a serious sharp, and he steamed that line from -280 to -400. So by Monday, Carlos is already -400. And then come Tuesday, I'm seeing dudes posting tickets with like -280 Ulberg. Like you're posting it after the line moved like $1.50 or more. Like, like Jonah Hill cut. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, I should just go ahead and post a quote unquote bet on Ian Garry -215 today, and act like I took that, right? You know, I'm sure that'll look really good for my reputation. So I'm just saying, man, if you missed the line, like don't be out here bullshitting. Like, don't be out here posting fake shit. Like, could y'all imagine if, like, I'm just saying, could y'all imagine, like, so Ian Garry hasn't been in the 200s for a few days now. Could you imagine if I posted a bet on Ian Garry at -225, like 3 days after the line moved over $1? Like, y'all would be like, the fuck is wrong with you? And that's the kind of shit I've been seeing with Ulberg, dude. Like I said, Sunday to Monday, Ulberg went from -280 to -400. Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm seeing guys posting bets on Ulberg in the -200s. Like stop the fraudulence, please. Stop the fraudulence. You know what I'm saying? And plus, no one can fucking tail something that's moved like close to $2 3 days after the fact. Like stop, you know? But that being said, I got Carlos Ulberg to win this fight. The line got away from me, so I'm not going to be one of these guys that I'm not going to come out here now on Wednesday and post a -2 something on Ulberg when that line hasn't been around since Sunday. Ulberg is still my pick, though. Next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Tim Means, he's 32-14, taking on Alex Morono, who's 22-8. Currently, they got it. Alex Morono -225. The comeback on Tim Means is +180. Yeah, this is a great fight. And, if this was a few years ago, I'd actually be interested in these odds on Tim Means, because I think historically speaking, this is a very closely matched fight. My only issue is, Tim Means he's getting up there, he's getting close to 40 years old. And the thing about it is, like, if you take away the age, all the numbers statistically, in terms of the striking numbers and the grappling numbers, they all say that Tim Means is a very live dog in this spot. And they all say that at the very least, Tim Means should be competitive in this fight. The thing I'm worried about is the one stat that isn't going Tim Means' way is the age. He's 6 years older, and you can see his durability isn't what it once was. Now, that might not matter. You might still come out here and get an upset anyways. But so let's just break down their styles. Tim Means, super long, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach, very good with the hand fighting and firing those shots straight down the middle, calf kicks. Also, don't sleep on his takedown game either. He's been around in the game a long time. He's a seasoned vet at this point. Good volume as well. Alex Morono, kind of a very unorthodox style, bounces on his toes, and he swings some bungalows, man, especially when he's got you backed up into the fence. And then he's also got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he kind of uses it in like reverse. Like, if you shoot on him, he's got a nasty guillotine waiting for you. But on the flip side, sometimes he'll give up position, like in that Jordan Meehan fight, and he'll kind of be held down. So, there's pros and cons. Also, he's coming off a knockout loss. I mean, like I said, a few years ago, I would definitely bet Tim Means at this price. It's just the age and the waning durability that's giving me the cause for concern. So I'm going to pick Alex Morono, but it's not a confident pick, and it's not something I'm interested. It's a dog or pass situation at the betting window, but pure pick Morono, but I'm not interested at what? At -225. Like, when I'm betting Alex Morono at -225, it's against like Josh Berkman, where I'm like guaranteed a first round finish. I have a feeling this can be a 3-round war unless Tim's just durability doesn't hold up, but we'll see. I mean, it's not like Alex Morono is Mr. Durable either. So God, I just wish Tim Means wasn't 39 or 40, man. Like, give me Tim Means at 35 years old at this price, and I'd bet him here, but it's not the case. So unfortunately, I have to pass. Next up in the welterweight division, we got the welterweight KO King, Matt Brown. He's 23-19, taking on Court McGee, who's 21-11. Currently, they got it Court McGee minus 235. The comeback on Matt Brown plus 200. Similar to the Means fight. If you gave me this price on Matt Brown a few years ago, I mean, it's a fucking no-brainer. I mean, I wouldn't even think twice I'd play it. It's just, you got to understand, you know, the regard we hold Matt Brown in is so high because when we think of Matt Brown, we think of all of his epic KOs. I think of the destruction of Pete Sell, where he knocked a man out 3 times in one fight. I think of the destruction of Eric Silva. I think of the destruction of Jordan Meehan, the destruction of Mike Pyle, the destruction of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, even back in the day in someone's basement in Atlanta when he was the only man to finish Douglas Lima via strikes. And to take it a step further, he's the only man to finish both Lima brothers via strikes. Pretty interesting, right? And something that Court McGee and Matt Brown have in common, they both died and came back to life. So fuck, man, what can stop these guys, right? True badasses. So I think Matt Brown's actually better than Court McGee. It's just Court McGee has a way of pushing the pace on guys and kind of getting them super fatigued and then being able to mix in takedowns. And one issue I've had in Matt Brown's recent fights, like especially that Barberena fight, it looked like Matt Brown was the way better fighter. He just gassed out so badly. And again, Matt Brown is not 35. Matt Brown is 42, guys. That means he will be 43 in his next birthday. Okay. That means his last birthday, he was 41. That means that he is not the same prime Matt Brown, the same. So that's what makes it tough, you know? I still think he can win this fight, though. It's just the longer it goes, you probably have to favor kind of the work rate of Court McGee and maybe the ability to mix in takedowns. But Matt's always live for a KO. Court's coming off a KO. Matt's got the most KOs in the history of this weight class. If Matt gets another KO, he'll tie Derek Lewis for the all-time UFC KO king. So I'd love to see it. And since I'm going to be in attendance for this fight, and I don't have a bet on this fight, I'm going to pick Matt Brown just because historically speaking, I think he wins this fight. I think like when you compare them both in their primes, I think Matt Brown was always better than Court McGee. I mean, Matt Brown made it to number 5 in the world at welterweight. Court McGee, I don't think he ever touched the rankings, but if he did, it was no better than like 14 or 15, right? Whereas Matt Brown, he made it to a title eliminator against Robbie Lawler. Like Matt Brown like had like a 7 or 8 fight win streak, was number 5 in the world, made it to that title eliminator with Robbie Lawler. They had an amazing fight, and that's kind of where his streak ended. But Matt Brown knows what it means to be number 5 in the world at one point. Court's never reached those heights. Court beat Whitaker back in the day at 70s, though. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, like I said, Court should be able to push the pace on him, but I'm going to be at this fight. I don't have a bet on it, so I'm going to pick biasedly. Don't even listen to what I have to say. I'm going to go Matt Brown to extend his record for most knockouts in welterweight history and tie the record for all-time knockouts in UFC history. Now, next up in the heavyweight division, we got a matchup between ATL's own Karl Williams. He's 8-1, taking on Chase Sherman, who is 16-11. And currently, they got it Karl Williams minus 400. The comeback on Chase Sherman's plus 310. I mean, I think we know the dynamic here. Chase Sherman, big leg kicks, doesn't really move his head off the center line, but he's obviously known for his striking. He's not known for his grappling, even though he did take down Waldo in that first round. Karl Williams, pretty stud wrestler. I mean, he's not like D1 or anything, but I mean, he wrestled with Cody Durden in high school, so he's good friends with him. So what I love about Karl Williams is that I actually called his amateur fights in the NFC, and I pride myself on my eye for talent. And Karl Williams never really was on my radar as someone that's like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be in the UFC one day. So the fact that like I called multiple of his fights and was never like, I was just like, whatever. And now he's in the UFC winning fights. Hey, Karl, tip my cap to you, bro. That's pretty fucking impressive that you made it this far. And yeah, I'm going to root for ATL's own. He's got a huge path to victory here with the wrestling. Are there some concerns about him gassing? Sure. But let's not sit here. Don't sit here and look me in the eye with a straight face and tell me Chase Sherman is some cardio machine, because he's absolutely not. So yeah, are there going to be maybe some sketchy moments along the way? Sure. But I think ultimately Karl Williams is going to be able to implement that takedown game, break Sherman late, come out here and get a second UFC win. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got a match between Cody Stamann. He's 21-5, taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade, who's 28-5. Currently, they got it Cody Stamann minus 140. The comeback on Douglas Silva de Andrade is plus 120. So Cody Stamann, I mean, I've pretty much had the same scouting report on him since day one, where it's like Cody Stamann is just super solid and he does just enough to get the job done. He's not going to blow anybody away with anything spectacular, but he's just solid meat and potatoes, good takedown defense, good offensive wrestling, good striking. He's a solid point fighter. I got a lot of respect for Cody Stamann. He's been able to kind of maintain that same spot throughout his entire UFC career. So props to him. And Douglas Silva de Andrade has also been around the block a long time. He's a little bit different though. He's more of a power hitter. He's more of kind of like a Brazilian bruiser, kind of gets right in your face. And that's what's going to make this an intriguing fight. And just like most Stamann fights, they tend to be pretty fucking close. Usually Stamann does just enough to get the job done, but all his fights seem to be, for the most part, within reach for the opponent. So if you're coming out here taking these dog odds on Silva de Andrade, I don't blame you. Like I said, every Cody Stamann fight, like Cody Stamann doesn't make statements. Cody Stamann just kind of ekes by, which like it's easy to discredit that, but the fact that he's been able to do it for this long and he's just solid. So he's a solid winner. I just respect him. You could make the argument that maybe Cody Stamann's kind of plateaued a little bit, whereas not that he's necessarily on a decline, but there's that it's the same Cody Stamann that we've always seen throughout his entire career. We're not going to get any surprises. And on the flip side, you're not going to get any surprises from Douglas. So it's what do you favor? The kind of play it safe approach of Cody Stamann, or the kind of bruising, harder hitter style of Douglas Silva de Andrade. So I see this being one that could realistically go either way. So I understand why some consider it a dogger pass situation. I kind of personally think that Stamann's going to be slightly ahead, just slightly ahead, not by much, just slightly ahead. So that's going to get him the decision, but there's absolutely chances for Douglas to swing rounds with big moments, hurt him, rock him, wobble him, whatever the case may be, threaten a submission when Stamann goes for a takedown attempt, whatever the case may be. So it's going to be a competitive 3-round fight, most likely. I'd say the finish upside is for De Silva. But yeah, I'm gonna go Stamann via decision. That's historically how he's won these fights. Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Natan Levy. He's 8-1, taking on Pete Rodriguez, who's 5-1. Currently, they got it Natan Levy minus 230. The comeback on Pete Rodriguez is plus 195. So, a lot of people have been coming in here and betting Pete Rodriguez for the upset, and I feel like we don't really I feel like we do know a good bit about Pete, and we kind of don't know a good bit about Pete. What we know about Pete is that the guy's a brawler. The guy's going to come out here, like even dating back to his amateur days, he's got a lot of first round knockouts, and then here in his professional career, he's won every single fight via first round knockout. The one time he lost, he took on a top 15 guy in Jack Della, and he got stopped in the first round. But there's no shame in that. There's no shame in getting stopped by a guy. Kid, you were 4-0 fighting Jack Della Maddalena, so I'm not going to hold that against him. So to me, it's just about, what do we not know about Pete? Like, is there a ground game that we just don't know about? Is there a wrestling game? Is there cardio past the first round? Is there cardio past the first couple minutes? What does he bring to the table beyond the brawling? And I love the brawling. Just as a fan, who doesn't love watching first round knockouts? I mean, I'm all for it, man. Hold on 1 second. Got to kill a spider. The motherfucker thought he was gonna pull a fast one on me. I don't think so, you son of a bitch. I'm just pissed off I didn't grab him with my bare hand, but we still got him out the way, so it's over, young man. But as far as this is concerned, listen, I just see Natan being the more well-rounded guy here. So here's the thing. We know what Natan brings. We know Natan's game. Natan is a good kicker. He's a physical guy. He can mix in takedowns, got good top controls, got a little sneaky leg lock game, moved out his comfort zones, training at Extreme Couture. So, and he's getting better every fight. So we know what to expect from Natan. We just don't know what to expect from Pete. besides early chaos. Pete is a guy that's going to come out here and try to bang. And I love that about him. How can you not love someone that's going to come to bang? I just need some questions answered. What happens past the 2-minute mark? What happens if takedowns are involved? What happens if we go to the second and third round? What happens when you're finally fighting someone that's not fucking Mike Jackson? So, I mean, where would y'all line me against Mike Jackson? Real talk, So I think I'm not open to being proven wrong that maybe there's areas of Pete Rodriguez's game that we just haven't seen yet. And it's not his fault. He's knocking all these guys out in under 2 minutes. Like, credit to you, man. It's just that as the level of competition keeps increasing, are you going to be able to keep doing that? And I can't say that for sure. Whereas with Natan Levy, I have seen those incremental improvements every single fight. I know he's got a style that can last 3 rounds, and I know exactly what he brings to the table. So for that reason, I'm going with Natan Levy to come out here. And I don't know if it's going to be a decision. I don't know if he's going to maybe submit him late. But, first, the early going is going to be tough because Pete's going to come right at him. Also, what's his weight cut going to be like for Pete? This is his first time fighting at 55s in the UFC. I'm sure he'll be fine. But let's just see. I got to see it first. So there's just too many unknowns for Pete. I respect him though. I love his fighting style, but Natan a lot more proven to me. And I also think they're trying to hook Natan up with some winnable matchups to kind of get his name up there and build, the Middle Eastern market a little bit, and get a big card going down there at some point. So that's all narrative, speculative talk. But back to the matchup, I just think Natan has more ways to win. And for that reason, I'm going to pick him to come out here and win this fight. I know there's been talk about Natan's cardio, but I mean, he pushes through it, man. He pushes through it. I mean, he won the 3rd round. His last fight, against a tough ass Mexican, a dude he wasn't willing to die in there. You know what I mean? And when I say he wasn't willing to die, I mean that as in he had a never say die attitude. Because some guys, it's like, okay, so I don't like talking about this because you don't want to actually see someone die in there, but there's the whole mentality of this guy, I'm willing to go in there and die. So what I meant by that was Geraldo, he does have that killer be killed attitude, but he wasn't, Natan wasn't ready to quit, Natan might have got tired, but Natan did the right things and sealed that decision. So I just think he's kind of been proven a bit more, Natan. So I got to go with him here for sure. All right, now these next 3 fights, man. Next up in the flyweight division, y'all start getting your questions ready for me, man, because we're gonna fly by these next few. Next up in the flyweight division, Jeon Kim 9-6-2 taking on Mandy Bohm, who's 7-2. Currently, they got it. Jeon Kim -190. The comeback on Mandy Bohm is +155. So let me just tell y'all my history with Jeon Kim. So I wanted to max better against this chick named Melinda Fabian, who was a joke. And even that fight was like a split decision. So I don't trust Jeon Kim at prices like this at heavy chalk. I still think she's got enough to win this fight because Mandy, y'all want to know what Mandy's showing inside the octagon? I'll tell y'all exactly what Mandy's showing inside the octagon. She hasn't shown shit inside the octagon, okay? She's got a negative strike ratio. She eats double the amounts that she lands. Doesn't land takedowns. I mean, it just doesn't look like someone that is going to stick around. But you never know. Maybe she needed those first 2 to get comfortable, but still, you lost to Victoria Leonardo unanimously. And then Jeon Kim, I've always liked her style because she comes out to bang. She's had a couple tough matchups. She puts up good numbers. Just needs to get her arm raised. And I think Saturday night in Charlotte, she's going to get her arm raised with more activity, being slightly meaner, more experience, and just go out there and get that decision win. Next up in the welterweight division, we got Gabe Green. He's 11-4, taking on Bryan Battle, who's 8-2. Currently, they got it. Gabe Green -135. The comeback on Bryan Battle is +110. So I've faded Gabe Green twice against Phil Rowe and against Ian Garry, and I thought that both my guys performed well there. But I respect Gabe Green. He's just like a tough junkyard dog. He's a kind of guy that's going to go out there and brawl and just be exciting, get in your face, never quit, never give up. big leg kicks like you saw in the Phil Rowe fight, insane chin like you saw in the Ian Garry fight, and just an indomitable spirit. So I enjoy watching. For a guy that's not super athletic, he brings it. So it's fun to watch. And Bryan Battle, um, he's going to be a bit physically bigger than Gabe Green for sure. I mean, we're dealing with a guy that's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. So he's going to have, a 3-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's the younger guy. But man, Bryan Battle got so badly exposed that last fight. I'm talking like, listen to this. In a 3-round fight, a 15-minute fight, this dude, Bryan Battle, lands a total of 3 strikes and gets taken down 7 times. Now, granted, that's against a 20-2 Russian, but it was like wasn't it like pick 'em or close to it? Like, and people were like stamping their flags on Bryan Battle against like a serious Russian. And like even the Trayshawn Gore fight, I thought that was more about what Trayshawn did wrong than what Bryan did right. I'm not trying to discredit him. Does have that win over Petrosky on the Ultimate Fighter. Granted, it was an exhibition fight, but you still beat a really good dude in an exhibition fight. It's a tough one to call. I kind of think Gabe Green's work rate is going to be the difference, but Bryan Battle is the more physical guy, so that should be interesting. Yeah, this one could probably go either way, but I'm a slightly lean towards Gabe Green. And then last but not least, we got a matchup between Jessica Rose Clark. She's 11-8, taking on Tainara Lisboa, who's 5-2. Currently, they got it. Tainara Lisboa -115. Jessica Rose Clark is -105. So, like, basically with this fight, we got one fighter and Jessie Jess, who, you know, I enjoy watching her, and I'll always be grateful when she cashed that ticket against Paige Van Zant for me. I think it was like +105 or something. So I'll always be grateful. I enjoy her personality. She's fun to watch, but kind of seems to me like, she kind of hit a bit of a decline. She's kind of on her way out, especially losing the last 2 fights the exact same way against lower level opponents. So I mean, but at her best, what I like about Jessie Jess is like, if y'all go back and watch her pre-UFC fights, like she was like a big girl and she like had a big transformation. She got her body right and, she made it to the UFC, got some wins in the UFC. So she's come a long way. So I respect that. It seems like a cool chick. But here with Lisboa, so Lisboa is like a 2-time Muay Thai world champion. She's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Hasn't really fought anybody. I say that. She made her fucking debut against Norma Dumont. Now, granted, she got choked out in the first round, but still, that's a serious debut. Norma Dumont, also in her Muay Thai days, fought Valentina. So she's been in there with some real people, but all her MMA fights, she's crushed total cans. But like I said, she wasn't competitive with the cans. She crushed the cans like you're supposed to. So now she gets her step up in competition against kind of like an aging vet in Jessie Jess. So it's really about, do you take the just experience of Jessie Jess, Jessie who's kind of like on a bit of a decline, kind of on her way out, but she's still more proven and experienced, or do you kind of go with the unknowns and kind of take the upside of Lisboa, who, you know, she doesn't seem bad, just hasn't fought anybody yet, right? And now is her chance to fight somebody, but somebody that's compromised, someone that's kind of on their way out. So another one that could go either way, but I'm gonna lean with the newcomer, man. I just think that her trajectory is slightly higher at this point in their respective careers. And even though she hasn't proven shit yet, Jessie Jess ain't a world beater by any means. So this is a good fight to get your feet wet inside the octagon. Let's see exactly where you stand. So I see it being an honest fight. It could go either way realistically, but I'll pick the newcomer here. All right, I'm gonna talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. And then after that, I'm gonna answer anything y'all got for me. So start submitting your questions. My boy says I'm late, dude. It's all good. You can just rewind to the beginning of the show and check it out. The fight to watch. The fight to watch is Carlos Ulberg versus Ihor Potieria. There's a reason they moved it to the main card. I mean, these two are going to most likely stand and bang until one man falls, and the winner is going to move up to, the top 20, the end of the top 15. It's going to get a big showcase fight next, where it's like not necessarily a showcase, but even like a prospect battle, a prospect showdown, right? Like, let's see exactly where you stack. So big fight for both of them, and it's going to be exciting. So for that reason, Ulberg versus Potieria is my fight to watch, and my fighter to watch is my prospect Ian Machado Garry, man. I think that this kid's special. I think that he's a future top 15 guy, and now he's got the biggest test of his career against D-Rod, who's no pushover whatsoever. So let's see exactly where you stand, Ian Garry, and I think he is the real deal. I think he is a future top 15 guy. So for that reason, Ian Garry is my fighter to watch. All right, cool. And y'all, I'm gonna be at UFC Charlotte. So if y'all see me, come holler at me. I'm very friendly for the most part. So if y'all want to say hi, whatever the case may be, I'm down to interact for sure. And yeah, y'all show me love and I'll show it back. I'm gonna scroll up to the top of the chat. I'm gonna see what y'all got for me. Wiz, looking forward to this one. I appreciate that, my guy. Ghost Gardner, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Ben said Aspinall book versus Tybura. Good to see Aspinall back. I'm very excited about this. Amish Woodmilk finally able to catch this live. I appreciate that. But guys, don't feel pressure to catch this live. Like I said, you can always catch the replay. It's available on all platforms. As long as you get the information, that's all I care about. But the fact that you made an effort to come catch it live, thank you, man. That means a lot. So Monk Monk Maddox, or is it Monk MMA Addicts? I know exactly who you are. For some reason, people call you Monk, so I don't know how to pronounce the rest of it. But he said, "What's up, Daniel? Very much looking forward to seeing Jailton fight again. Great show. Thanks, my brother. I appreciate that. And you keep up your good work as well, dude." UFC Shell says Jailton takedown under 30 seconds. Definitely going to shoot under 30 seconds. I'll tell you that much. Ghost Gardner says, "Love me, Aspinall. Just wish they gave him a real contender or player in the division." Well, Marcin Tybura is a top 10 guy. Aspinall's coming off a serious injury. Like, let's ease back into it. If he beats Tybura how he's supposed to, then he'll hop right back in there with the big fights of the division. Make no doubt about it. Jay Weezy, shout out Dan the man. Were you ever able to access the super chat money I sent you? Bro, I haven't been able to get a dime that anybody sent me. So I'm super grateful that you donated. You know, it was no obligation, but the fact that you went out of your way to donate to the show means a lot. But yeah, I haven't seen a penny of it. If anyone's interested, and this is obviously not an obligation, but if you view this as like buying me a beer, or maybe you cashed on last week on Bilal and Xiaonan and you want to give me a tip, which is not required, but if you want to, my Cash App and Venmo and PayPal info is in the description of the show. Because yeah, for whatever reason, YouTube, they're like holding my money for years now. I haven't gotten a dime from it, which is fucking crazy. But man, I really appreciate just the sentiment means a lot, man. Yeah, and Monk said the right thing. You know, Aspinall's got to let's just test that knee out at first and then take it from there. Rick said Sterling legit champ. Hey, I can't deny it. I thought you all know how I felt about Sterling in the past, but these last two fights, he's won fair and square. Beat the living shit out of TJ, arm or not. And then I thought he beat Henry 3-2. Abu Dhabi said, I love everyone saying I'm not convinced on Jamal Hill. Jiri going to beat him. Getting the Bilal hater vibes on Hill. What do you think the odds will be? The odds are already out. Hill's like minus 155. Londo said Almeida will be champion. Well, I mean, like, you think he's going to beat John Jones, or you think John Jones is going to vacate and then Almeida's going to have to like beat Sergey Pavlovich? Because once you get to the top of the top, it's a different beast. I'll tell you that right now. Small World says, "Call me crazy. May Brown round 1 KO after what Wells did to Court. Court. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. I'm going to be in attendance. There would be nothing that'd make me happier than a Matt Brown knockout. Not because I have anything against Court, but because I'm such a big Matt Brown fan, and I'd love to see him extend his record for most knockouts in welterweight history, and tie the overall record for most knockouts in UFC history. So that would be badass." David Dean says, "I think the time to fade Ian Garry may have finally arrived, but the age and volume difference are making me hesitant." I personally don't think it's the time to fade Ian Garry yet. Doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, I've been wrong many times. I'll be wrong many more times, but I'm not fading him here. In fact, I want to bet him if I can get a good fucking line. So hopefully some action comes in on D-Rod for my sake. Big Bird says, "People love to talk about how Ian Garry is a fraud, yet my bank account argues differently." That's what I'm saying, Big Bird. I mean, Ian Garry, Yan Xiaonan, Bilal Muhammad, Jamal Hill. Keep calling them frauds, and we'll keep laughing all the way to the bank. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Burns only had one arm, but like a few hours prior, people are sharing pictures of Bilal's ballooned up ankle. But once Bilal wins, oh, all of a sudden the ballooned up ankle is not a talking point anymore. So people are just selective haters, and most importantly, they're just bitter because they keep losing money betting against Bilal Muhammad. I don't get it. Like, you haven't learned your lesson that it's not profitable at all fading Bilal. Hopefully now you learn, because we're gonna get dog odds again when he fights for the belt, and act accordingly. Abu Dhabi says, since when has Garry covered any of his price tags? I don't know. Let's look at his box scores real quick. First fight, first round knockout. Second fight, doubles the guy out up on strikes. Next fight, gets a knockdown and lands over 100 significant strikes. Next fight, gets a knockout and lands over 100 significant strikes. So I'd say he's been pretty damn close every time. Maybe not the last time because it was minus 800, but he still beat the shit out of the dude. So I'm sold on Garry personally. Big Bird says he thinks this is the fight Ian gets his first submission. Yeah, I mean, don't sleep on his ground game, man. Like, I saw it in Cage Warriors. The guy's very well rounded. Abu Dhabi, you said he'll win at minus 300. Nah, not to call you out, bro, but you had zero issue laying like minus 400 on JJ Aldrich, but all of a sudden minus 300 Ian Garry is too much for you. Come on, dog. Be consistent. Londo wants to ride with D-Rod. He thinks he's live for the upset, and he thinks the odds are disrespectful. You need to think for yourself. Doesn't matter what I say, doesn't matter what anyone says. What matters is what you say. And if that's what you think, then you need to go to the betting window and take advantage, man. You know, like, that's just the bottom line. You got to think for yourself on this. Creep said best breakdowns on YouTube. I appreciate that, my man. And everyone do me a huge favor. Smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And then when this is over, leave me a comment. And if you feel so inclined, share this as well. Truly appreciate that. Let's see. Creep said Ihor is Dan's favorite fighter. I got nothing against him. But that is funny. Let's see. Dirty Rex says my book got Ulberg minus 455. I know, so you should post a ticket on. You should post a bet on Ulberg like minus like 280 and act. You know what I'm saying? See if anyone notices. No, I'm just kidding. All right, y'all got anything else for me? Jared says hopping in late, but hope y'all are having a great day. I hope you're having a great day too, man. And like I said, just because y'all are late doesn't mean you can't go back to the beginning of the show and start it from there, man. It's all good. Londo said Almeida will be champion. You heard it here first. Yeah, but you know that's contingent on a lot of things. Beating Rozenstruik doesn't mean you're going to be champ. But if you can beat John Jones, if you can beat, you know, I wish Francis was still there, but you know what I'm saying. If you can beat one of those guys, Sergey, then we can have that conversation. All right. My boy said, "Rest in peace, that spider." Yeah, man, he never had a chance. Like, don't walk up on me during my fucking show, man. Like, don't try to interrupt my live stream and disrupt my peace. You know what I'm saying? Um, Dirty Rex said, "Levy been a decisionator." Yeah, but like, is that like an issue? Like, y'all know if someone wins a decision, you still get paid if you bet on them, right? So like, y'all like need to take your fan caps off sometimes and put on your fucking investor cap. Like, I don't give a fuck if it's a DQ, a decision, a KO, a sub. Yeah, would I like all my guys to win by knockout in the first minute? Of course, but this is fighting. That shit's just not realistic to happen all the time. So go win by decision. You think I was complaining that Bilal thoroughly dominated Gil for 5 rounds? No, I was loving every second of it. So it is what it is. Mark G said, "Damn, still no Shaq. What the fuck, bro? Like, you late to the party." Firstly, all respect to Shaq. You know, Shaq was a great co-host, and he brought something great to the table. But Shaq retired from podcasting like over a year ago. Uh, you understand what I'm saying? When I started the show in 2015, um, I started by myself. And then in 2016, my first co-host was Sean Carey. Sean Carey was my co-host from 2016 till about mid 2017. And then when Sean Carey left, Shaq stepped up to the plate in mid 2017. And, we had a great run together. Um, but, Shaq retired from podcasting, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I'm grateful for the time we had here together. But make no mistake about it, the show must go on. The show will go on, and the show's been going on. So y'all just make sure you brush up on the history of the show. If you got to date all the way back to the old shows, do so. But yeah, make sure. But yeah, shout out. I hope my boy is doing well. Um, let's see what else y'all say. Londo said, if Kim doesn't finish this chick, she should be ashamed of herself. UFC is giving her an easy win. I mean, she's probably not going to finish. She's probably going to get a decision win, but we'll see. We'll see. I'd love to see a finish because I'm going to be there in attendance. All right. Anything else? Last call. My boy Rick the Ruler. Appreciate you, Levy. I appreciate you, Rick the Ruler. Thanks, man. Jafifer says, any underdogs you lean for DK? Matt Brown has got KO upside. The Johnny Walker's got KO upside. Tim Means has KO upside. Douglas D. Silva has close decision upside. Yeah, probably those. Like one or two of those has to probably come through, right? Kyle says, what do you think about the next two pay-per-view shows so far? How would you grade them? So my problem with this question, Kyle, is I don't like grading things before the fact. I like grading them after the fact, because sometimes you'll shit on a card and then it turns out being the most all violent card. And at the end of the day, I judge it on two things: my entertainment and what spots I was able to find as a gambler. And we just got to take it one card at a time. So when that card rolls around, ask me that question again. Nick says, hey, bro, wanted to tell you thank you. I hit a 3-dog parlay thanks to you, Muhammad, Yan, and Steamroller, after betting them individually. All right, so the last sentence is the most important part. Guys, remember, I never said to parlay those underdogs. I said to bet them all straight. So I'm glad you bet them all straight, because the reason being is this. Let's say Yan hit, but Bilal didn't hit. We still risked the same amount on both. We would have came out profitable. Both hit, it was red panty night. But if you want to just, put a little bit on the parlay just to see if you can go big, cool. But you can't hold that against me. You shouldn't hold anything against me, because at the end of the day, you're making the bets for yourself. I'm making the bets for myself. My money, your money, right? But you got to play them straight for the same amount. So if one wins, you profit. But the fact that you were able to go in there, say fuck it, and hit that parlay, hey, I'm happy to hear that you went out there and won some money. My boy Dominic says, smash some like for Red Panty Night. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Dirty Rex said, Dan, I was on your side, but don't sit there and try to tell me that fighters winning by decision only versus finishers shouldn't go into capping fights. Yeah, I mean, you want to cap the method of victory, of course, but like, if my guy goes out there and wins a decision, am I going to hold it against them? Like, you can dominate someone by decision, and it's not a big deal. Like, just go out there and do your job, right? So, I mean, I don't understand. Like, Yan Jianan, I thought she was probably going to win a decision. She knocked her out in the first round. Cool. Bilal, I was down with a late stoppage or a decision. Cool. Whatever. I mean, just go out there and do your job. That's all I care about. So, I mean, if we're talking DraftKings and trying to project how many points they might score, okay, that's a different story. But when we're just talking about betting and, is this price accurate or not? Is there value or not? Then, methods, unless you're a prop guy, like methods, which I'm not, methods are, I just care more about how they match up stylistically. But I hear what you're saying. Caio says, cheers from Brazil. Jailton, our next champion. Caio, valeu, irmão. I appreciate you listening to this, man. Muito obrigado. Usui said, "Hey Dan, just so you know, Battle had an injury and got sick the day before his last fight. I think he's decided this week." Yeah, but okay, he got sick, but he landed 3 strikes in a 3-round fight. So if he wasn't sick, would he have landed like 10 strikes in a 3-round fight? Like he just wasn't. He's just not good enough to beat that guy. This guy might be different. So that's why this is a closer fight. So we'll find out. Dominic says fire Derek clearly, or as I like to call him, Derek can't see so clearly. Jerry Rex said props. I feel you too, Dan. Great show. Thank you, man. All right, y'all. This is like the millionth last call. Anything else y'all got for me? Now's the time. If not, I'm getting out of here. Once again, thank y'all very much for all the support y'all have shown me. Glad that last week we were able to come out there and have our biggest event of the year so far. Jiaonan 3 units, Bilal 3 units. So it came out to like a +8.5 unit night or something like that. I'm just pissed I didn't max bet both like I initially wanted to, but I was like, man, I can't get arrogant. I should have got arrogant, right? But it is what it is. There's going to be many more opportunities ahead. So just take it one event at a time. Use proper money management discipline. Always bet Yan Jianan and Bilal Muhammad. Thank you guys very, very, very much. Smash the like button if you haven't. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. When this is over, leave me a comment. If you feel so inclined to share, that'll mean a lot. Later tonight, I'm on Addicted to Combat. Thanks to my man for having me on as well. And then shout out to everyone that had me on last week too. And if you're at UFC Charlotte, don't hesitate to, if you see me, come say hi. If you're at the event, you can reach out to me and let me know, and I'll be around hanging out. So, and shout out to Dan, my buddy Dan, that hooked me up with the tickets for Charlotte. Really appreciate that, bro. That meant a lot. You didn't have to do that. So the fact that you went out of your way to hook a brother up really meant a lot. So thank you for that. The early weigh-in podcast just say hit Jiaonan big last week and inside the distance +800. Damn, I know my boy is out here laughing all the way to the bank. Things you love to see. You know what I'm saying? So congrats, man. All right, y'all. Thank y'all very, very much again. Truly, truly appreciate it. I'll be back next week. Next few cards, I'm going to be having some guests. So if y'all have any recommendations for guests that you'd like to see that you think I'd mesh well with, someone that you think is entertaining, informative, that's not going to bore the fans, that you think I'll mesh well with, y'all let me know as well. So yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.